Hello, and welcome back to the epic and most crazy games ever, as we hail the Touch Detective today. So, Touch Detective 2.5, the sequel to Touch Detective 1. Now, if you're a long-time viewer, you may have remembered I reviewed the first game, so I beat the second game several months ago, and I haven't gotten around doing a review for it quite yet, but we're rectifying that. So, the sequel. So if you're not familiar with the original game, this is a point-and-click game, essentially, using the touchscreen and stylus. While you can use the plus pad and the buttons to play, the cursor does move very slowly, so this is definitely a game recommended for the stylus. It's an original DS title, so you can play it on your 3DSs and such. Now, Touch Detective is a Japanese property that is made by Success. Now, a lot of my viewers really were like, what kind of name is that for a game? This is a E-weighted game. This isn't a Pavori game. Don't take the touch out of context. So, how the game is, you get a few episodes, play mostly pretty classical style point-and-click-esque, trying to solve puzzles and shit, carrying items around, giving items around, and using items on really bizarre combinations. Like, seriously, like, you know how everyone says touching point-and-click games die because of the really bizarre puzzles? This game has some of those. Not all of them are bizarre, but there were definitely a few moments where you're just like, how in the fuck was I supposed to actually know that? So be aware of that if you were a big critic of that type of puzzles. Now, personally, what I like about Touch Detective is it has a very distinct art style that makes it pretty easy to recognize the franchise, honestly. So it does stand out with a nice layout. Now, being a point-click game, this means your bottom screen is primarily what you use for the gameplay aspect. So you might wonder, what is the top screen used for? Well, sadly, the top screen doesn't really get to do much. What it does, for the most part, is that you'll learn some of the inner dialogue thoughts of your main character, but outside of that, it's usually just a stack image of your character with an environment behind or telling you your location, so they don't usually get too much overall use out of that. Now, being a touchscreen type game, you'll be pointing and clicking and stuff all over your screens, getting dialogue, trying to look for stuff, or try to make things function in that. Like I said, some of it makes sense, some of it don't. Music's pretty good too. Music works for it. It's not anything I'm gonna look up on YouTube and be like, yeah, oh yeah. But it gets the job done. Really, what's really probably the good thing about this game is it is a very bizarre game. Of course, being from Japan, of course it's fucking bizarre. Now, if you're not familiar with the cast is group. The main character is a young detective and her two goofy-ass friends. Now, the first game was kind of conjointed with the episodes. Like, they didn't... Hell, one of the episodes in the first game didn't even make any sense to me. Honestly, I kind of wonder if it was like a lost in translation kind of thing, because it never comes... It was a really, really strange episode, and it never comes up again. Nothing that happened in that episode even comes up. Hell, the main antagonist of that one episode that was bizarre in the first game doesn't even show up in the sequel, so it's very odd there. So you might wonder, what kind of things have they adjusted in the game? When it comes to the gameplay, nothing really, actually. It pretty much plays identical to the second game. Even several areas are straight out of the original game. There are a few new areas, and there are some new characters, and there are, of course, references back to the previous game, such as the bear with a knife in its head. That was a funny little reference, but there were several funny references. Probably the big change for the sequel here, though, is in its storytelling. The episodes feel a lot more linked in a coherent story as opposed to the enjointed, strange, random cases of the first game. This time you have a rival officer who is stalking the antagonist. Now, the first game didn't have a real antagonist. Each episode had its own antagonist, and for the most part, they weren't even really evil. They just usually mistakes, misunderstandings, and stupid things like that. But this time, you do have an actual antagonist. The Great Thief, the Cornstalker. Yes, he is called the Cornstalker. Don't question it. The reason he's called the Cornstalker is his hair his hair mask hat looks like the stalks of corn, and his hair looks like the corn, hence his name, the Cornstalker. In several of the episodes, not all of them though, the Cornstalker tries to steal shit. There are a few moments where the Cornstalker is more of just a background character in one particular episode where he just appears and then it's like, ah! And then he disappears for the rest of that one episode. But for the most part, the Cornstalker appears through most of the game to antagonize you through your findings of your mysteries, leading to a more coherent story, especially in the end, where a lot of crazy shit is. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's incredibly easy to guess who the Cornstalker is out of the new characters that appear in this game. It is like, you'd have to be, like, not trying to insult anyone here, but honestly, a child is the only people I can see getting fooled by this. I'm not gonna say who the Cornstalker is, but it is incredibly obvious who the Cornstalker is. If you don't realize it after the first episode, you should really pick up on it. But there are several recurring jokes, gags, and references to how the Cornstalker does his thieving and his disguising, so he makes a pretty decent child-friendly antagonist. He's not so friendly, and there are several other new characters, some friendly, some are assholes, like the train conductor's an asshole. Oh boy. Overall, though, you will see a lot of the old characters, but there are several that don't reappear with several of their areas. I'm specifically disappointed, like I said, the very strange episode of the first game. I'm very sad none of the characters in that episode even appear, because it was such a strange fucking case that I felt like it was going to go into more something, but I don't know, it just never led anywhere. But honestly, if you played the original game and you liked it, this is more of the same with a more coherence to the story. The controls and everything, like, literally I don't even remember anything different. Like, the controls, touch around, she'll walk over, examine it, and whether it has something to do with the story or talk to people, question them and stuff. Now, for the end game, so the original game had a bonus mode where you could do these small little side detective seeking, finding little missions. Now, this game does the exact same thing where it does have additional bonus content that doesn't really go into much newer. Now, I will tell you, there are apparently new characters that are only in this bonus content, because they're all, when looking at the menus for the like profiles and your touch list, there are several things. Now, in the original game, there were additional touch items for your touch list, because you are the great touch detective. You touch things. Not pervert things, you perverts. But, there is a character profile where you can see characters art, and there is a few characters that are unknown there. So there are apparently a few special characters that are only for the bonus content. So I will admit, I didn't really mess with bonus content much. It's just kind of just side little things that at least hadn't panned out to be anything too interesting for me particularly, but that's just me. It was a fun little game though. You can get this pretty cheap for the most part. I mean, let me take a quick look. At least the last time I looked, I got my copy complete for $5 from the local game store in my area. But let's see what's the going price for it now. But, what's he... Not what I wanted to do on Amazon. I think the things that stand out the most for the game myself, though, is definitely the art style and the characters. It is very weird Japanese crap. Let's see. Going price right now, complete copy, brand new, for $22. Going price for used is $12 and up. So that seems like pretty good. Personally, if you want me to give my value to this game, I think a good $10 is pretty decent. $15 at most, not too bad, but $20, unless you want it like brand new or something, maybe that's fine. It's definitely not the worst price tags. Let's see, on eBay, looks like around $20 to $15 looks about the general price for complete edition. And for loose copy, there's a few loose copies for $5 to $9. But I got a complete one for $5, so I guess I got a pretty good deal on mine then. I didn't get a complete copy with my original game, sadly. But, yeah, I'd give it a good $10. $15 at most, honestly. What really, like, keeps this game having a lot of time is some of the more trickier puzzles on, like, how the fuck was I supposed to know to do that? This game does have several of those moments, honestly, which is something a lot of people dislike about point-and-click games a lot of times. So you might be facing either try to literally do everything you could think of to progress the story, or look up with a guide to see what to do in several occasions, possibly. But it has a pretty average time length. Few hours, depending on how lucky you are on some of the wacky puzzles. Not super amazing long. You're not gonna like get like 60 hours of the game, which is why I wouldn't advise a whole lot of money. But you know, it's an older title, and it's probably cheaper if you want a Japanese version. Oddly enough, for those who aren't familiar, Touch Detective actually is popular in Japan, because I know a lot of my viewers thought it was weird. The first one was really strange, but this actually does have a sequel, 2 sequels, in fact, in a mobile game. So maybe one day down the road, we'll talk about Touch Detective 3 on the 3DS maybe one day, because that introduced a new rival character for a detective, but that's a whole nother story. So in the end, I would definitely recommend Touch Detective 2.5 for anyone who really likes good old point-and-click-esque games, and you're looking for something definitely in the bizarre, because let's be honest, point-and-click games were bizarre a lot of times. I mean, Dave the Tentacle, anyone? Sam and Max? So, Japan making a point-and-click game just seems like just common sense, honestly, when you really think about it. I enjoyed the game myself, but some of the puzzles, like I said, are a little bit annoying here and there. But overall, it's a good game you can do on breaks, pull out real quick, and of course you can save anywhere and continue your progression, or put the console to sleep by closing it. So, it's a good to-go game. It's good for that. Overall, though, like I said, if you're in the point-and-click game, so spoilers. So what about spoilers? So, like I said, there's a more coherent story going on here in this game versus the last game, and it mostly involves the Cornstalker, but there is one particular case that doesn't really involve him, aside from one time him cropping up. That was the puppet case, but overall, the thing with the Cornstalker is the antique guy. Like, it's like, you look at him, he's like new, your main character's like, oh my god, he's so cute and so embarrassed talking to him. And he's like, he has a lot of yellow blonde hair. And it just happens to be every time the Cornstalker's gone. I mean, Yeah, well, what's that? Every time the cornstalk was around, his store's closed. What a convenient, odd coincidence. Also, the reoccurring gag that he disguises himself as the milkman and leaves a milk bottle around in multiple instances in the game, including the very end, is just a more reoccurring joke about his awful disguises that he somehow keeps doing. But, the very end of the game involves them getting abducted by aliens and escaping from the aliens. It's just kind of a goofy episode with an ending. The Cornstalker's still at large. There's not any real concrete ending to any of the characters. It's just mainly another case solved. Now, I don't know if the Cornstalker gets any more showtime in the third game. I've only seen a little footage of the third game. It was never localized, so it's only available in Japanese, so finding footage of it's a little bit wary. So if I ever get my hands on a 3D capture card, I could be potentially one of the first people to really do a lot of footage for it, possibly, maybe, potentially. But I actually enjoyed the more coherent story of the second game a lot more. I did like the first game, but just some of the random shifts in how the story goes to a complete, especially that one strange episode with the I think it was like one of those starlight type of buildings where you can see the stars and stuff inside. Like there was a weird kidnapping episode in the first game where one of your friends gets kidnapped, and there's just all kinds of weird things happening in the episode, and you just get your friend back, and you never resolve what the fuck the whole kidnapping and everything was even about. It never comes up again, at least in the English version of it. I feel like there was something lost in the localization there. And Atlas did continue the localization with 2. They localized the original one for English and did 2 for the American audience as well. But sadly, I guess even though they gave Touch Detective a second try, I guess they didn't feel like the third one was worth their efforts to do, sadly, on the 3DS. And there was a music puzzle game thing spin-off also, which is the other game I was talking about, which actually got a Switch version that has localization in it, but I think it's sold out. I kind of passed because I didn't think the localization was a big enough reason to get to that, because it being more of a music game thing as opposed to a full-blown story. But that's a whole different can of worms. Overall, yeah. If you like point-and-click games, I can recommend it. If you don't, and you really hate them, don't go near this. You're gonna hate this. This does not really resolve some of the common criticisms that point-and-click games got. So, those are my thoughts on Touch Detective 2.5. Our little Touch Detective is still hates her fucking name. Also, bonus, for anyone who wonders why she's called the Touch Detective. So the first game, she actually didn't have the title Touch Detective until the end. Like, she kept a diary entry of things she touches and, like, describes, like, the fluffy and things like that. And her butler accidentally mailed her diary entry for her, like, detective certificate thingy. So they titled her as the Great Touch Detective, which she actually hates that name, but that is sadly her detective name. So, and that gag is also thrown about in the sequel, and I'm sure it probably continues in the third game. But I did like this game, but I can definitely see why it probably wasn't, because even though it worked great on the DS and everything, because it's a point click, so stylus, easy maneuvering around and interacting with stuff. Point-and-click games, I mean, Telltale, there's a reason Telltale from the Sam & Max game and on just went further away from point-and-click and just became more of a storytelling thing. Because it's not that it's bad, it's just not a mainstream moneymaker. It's a very niche audience, and while it does have that audience, I guess it wasn't good enough for Atlas in the localization department, but it was apparently good enough to get still a sequel and some more spin-offs. So including a port of one of those spin-offs to the Switch. Though I would like to see possibly maybe the third game getting on there with a localization. That'd be cool, but it's probably not going to happen. More time just seems to be gone. But hey, maybe time will tell. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you feel like you learned anything interesting in this video, feel free to leave a like. And if you feel like you learned absolutely nothing about the Touch Detective, an little creepy pet little mushroom, then feel free to leave a dislike. Feel free. Until next time in the Proving Grounds, I'll see you out there.
どうだった？私の作った